Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile. Mike Renner, Kyle Long, and we have very special guest Brock Vereen joining the program. Fellas, we got football this week. We're back. Thursday night, Hall of Fame game going down. It's obviously not the football we want, but it's better than no football, right? I mean, like this is kind of what we live for. So we will be going through all the news reports, a lot of new contract extensions, some weird stories, Christian Wilkins saga. We're going to be going through that. A lot of training camp news we're going through. And then at the end of the show, we are going to rank the biggest off-season moves from 10 to 1. Brock, how you been, man, though? What are you excited for this upcoming week?
I'm excited for a Hall of Fame game, and you worded it perfectly, right? It's the bread and butter that gets placed on the table. I didn't come to the restaurant for that, but I'll take it because it's going to get me closer to the meal. I will take any crumb that I can get. Football's here. Happy to be here with you guys.
Oh, yeah, Brock. Hey, Brock, I love the Hall of Fame game too. And, we can attest to this as players who have been to camp and have had that deadline. If you're one of those teams that has the Hall of Fame game, everything gets accelerated. But to your point, it may not be the starters, or if it is, it could be for many series, probably one. But you get to see so many guys who are living their dreams in the place where legends finish their careers and at the Canton, Ohio Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's a special thing. And then always you get this year's inductees. They walk out. They introduce those players to the crowd. It's special because they line up both teams right outside the 50 and they march these legends across, and you're embarking on this journey of an NFL season. It's really cool. I still get chills when I watch it. That's my 10 cents on the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, I was actually at the Packers Hall of Fame. I was in Green Bay over the weekend. I went through, they had a full Shannon Sharp exhibit because obviously he's going into the Hall. And they had the clip of, Sterling Sharp. They had the clip of Shannon saying,
we got some Shannon clips.
Okay, they didn't have those clips, but they had the one clip of Shannon saying from his Hall of Fame inductee that he can say that he's the first person to go into the Hall of Fame who wasn't even the best at football in his own family. Obviously, very heartfelt. Now Sterling getting in the first brother duo, which I would have thought that there were someone before this, right? With just all the guys we've seen in recent years, like the Watt brothers, the Bosas, the Vereens. Like you would have thought there would be some Hall of Famers that are brother dudes. This is the first one. So I was a little surprised by that. But let's get to some news here. Contracts, couple extensions. Rashawn Slater, officially the new highest paid offensive tackle in all of football. 4 years, $114 million. That's $28.5 million per year. Just goes over the top of Tristan Wirfs, who was $28.125, and Penei Sewell, who was $28 million. This one, I mean, well-deserved. Obviously had some injury history early on in his career, but last year was one of, if not the best left tackle in football.
Here we go again, Harry. It's these pictures that I love that you put up because it's always these offensive tackles. We talk about getting these astronomical space-type numbers for new contracts that have these lean builds. And the first video I saw of this young man not playing football was him in the weight room doing front squats in what are essentially rec specs with the entirety of his team around him and just beast moded like 400-pound front squat. I was like, this guy's going to block a lot of people. He's going to get it done quietly and efficiently. He's done that. He had the tricep issue in, I believe, 22 or 23. Last year came back, was dominant. And look, if you've got a quarterback like Justin Herbert, you spare no expense to protect him. They've drafted Joe Alt in the last year and a half. They're going to have Slater locked up through 29, I believe. Look, they're doing it the right way in Los Angeles, and Rashawn Slater is at the top of the game when it comes to offensive tackles.
I've been covering the Big Ten for quite some years now, and when Rashawn Slater was at Northwestern, it was the first time I remember turning on a game, no disrespect, Kyle, to watch the tackles. I just wanted to watch Rashawn Slater play football. I didn't care about anything else going on. I said, okay, apparently this guy is some Hall of Fame candidate, and he's a sophomore in college, and that's exactly what I saw. And he is smooth as butter, and I love using that because you can use phrases with him that don't really apply to any other offensive tackle. He's not the biggest guy, just like Kyle said. He is so smooth. I'm convinced he could play 3 other positions out there on that field, not even part of the offensive line, a straight athlete and well-deserved.
This is now for that 2021 first rounder. There has been so the first 13 picks, if you were not a quarterback, so there were 4 quarterbacks drafted in that span, the other 9 guys, 7 of them have extensions. The lowest paid one of those 7 is making $25 million a year. And the other 2 that haven't been extended are Kyle Pitts and Micah Parsons. It is truly that 2021 draft class was a spectaculararily loaded top of the draft. The other extension,
and hey, Penix says he's gonna throw to Kyle Pitts. I don't know.
He might get. Yeah, you might get. You might get.
If you guys saw that, he's like, "Y'all."
I don't believe him. I won't believe any Kyle Pitts anything until I see it.
Dude, everybody needs a guy like Michael Penix Jr. in their corner.
He is great.
The other extension to get to here, Jake Ferguson, tight end for Dallas Cowboys. He gets a 4-year, $52 million deal. This comes a couple years after they actually drafted a tight end in the second round. Cowboys did, but Jake Ferguson had a breakout year then. Was banged up a little bit last year, but I think this one's well-deserved. And if you just look at this contract, $13 million a year for what I think we'd all agree is a top 10 tight end in the NFL. There's no other position in the NFL right now where you can get a top 10 player for $13 million a year. Maybe running back, but like wide receivers, you're getting backup wide receivers making $13 million a year. So to get a guy like Ferguson at this number, it just feels like no tight end's ever going to hit free agency anymore because it just doesn't make sense not to pay him.
He helps every single facet of that offense. And now with some changes to the wide receiver room, you need a threat in the middle of the field. Ferguson is a Wisconsin guy. You know he's going to block. He loves blocking, can bring him back at fullback, get creative with some formations, and of course can attack the middle of the field, keep those safeties honest, keep those linebackers honest, keep those cornerbacks on islands with your 2-star wide receivers outside. And for $13 million, you do that every single time.
Yeah, you're talking about the middle of the field, and it completely makes sense because this guy Ferguson, tight end, he's going to be in the vision of the quarterback a lot. But when you've got those 2 receiver threats, and you can attest to this as a guy who's played in the secondary, oftentimes you allocate one of your 2 safeties, and I'm just using a too high look as kind of the regular model here. You allocating a safety to one of these receivers to make sure that they don't beat the one-on-one on the outside. Jake Ferguson has the ability to stretch the field. So if there is a void at the 3rd level of that defense, I anticipate Ferguson making some explosive plays for this offense this year. It's important to get him locked up.
Yeah, I expect the Cowboys to be majoring in 12 personnel this season. So 1 back, 2 tight ends, because 1, you have really only 2 wide receivers. You have George Pickens, you have CeeDee Lamb. We discussed that, but then your 3rd guy is Jalen Tolbert. He's okay, but you don't necessarily need that 3rd guy out on the football field. But you also have 2 quality tight ends. Luke Schoonmaker has a tight end too. He can run the seam. He's fast. He has good hands, and he can block. So getting those 2 guys out on the football field, it just then creates more space than for those wide receivers on the outside to work. So I would expect, just given the personnel there, that we're going to be seeing a lot of that in Dallas. All right, this is the story I wanted to get to. I've been excited to get to ever since it broke last week. And there's been whispers about, going back to a month ago, Mitchell Renz reported that Christian Wilkins may miss this entire season with another foot injury. He obviously signed that $100 million deal last offseason with the Raiders. They release him over the weekend after what's been called an incident. There's no more known about it. The reports are that it's weird. It's very weird, but an incident in the team facilities obviously didn't happen like in a practice. He's not been practicing. He still has that foot injury that may be, keeping him out this year. John Feliciano, a former teammate of his, says brother's always been a little freaky. Was the quote. You've seen the multiple clips of him going back to Clemson, to his time at Miami, where he, did something to Josh Allen that got him upset in a pile. He did something to an Ohio State guy in the semifinals that got him a little upset. That was actually pretty obvious. He just grabbed his butt cheeks, or maybe he went a little deeper than that. But this one, what do we think? Like we discussed a little bit before. We don't have to go too deep into it, but like, what has to happen to release a guy 1 year into a $100 million deal to eat $52 million to basically play, fewer than 300 snaps in a Raiders uniform? What do we think's going on here, Kyle?
I mean, well, Mike, you tell me, but we know that it wasn't something that took place on the field. So you can take all the documentation of things that have happened on the field and you can essentially throw it out. But I can attest as a player that when you are sharing a common space with 52 other guys, and during the offseason, even more around this time of year, it's like 90 guys, right, Brock? Yep. It's 90 dudes. I mean, we're fighting for space. They create, makeshift locker rooms in the building to pack all these dudes in there. And I was talking to Brock and I was talking to Mike before the pod, and I was explaining to them that obviously with that volume of people, and Brock knows this, you're going to have 90 different personalities. You're going to have 8 to 10 different groups, cliques that, are on the same frequency when it comes to senses of humor or boundaries, socially or comedically. You can roast me, I can roast you. Okay, this is our thing. Guys like Christian Wilkins, and based on what we've heard from former teammates of his, I would say that there's probably 4 to 6, maybe 8 guys in every locker room that have a sense of humor that not only toes the line, but goes well over the line. And along with those 6 to 8 guys, let's call it, that have that sense of humor, and I mean, they cry laughing at the stuff that they do. They're not offended by anything. Nothing's off limits. Then there's the 8 guys on the other end of the spectrum that are made very uncomfortable by some of the things that happen in a locker room. And it could, run the whole gambit of things, examples of things. But there's always a group of guys that may not like what's going on. And you have to keep that in mind when you're in a leadership position, when you're starting a new culture, as Pete Carroll is and the Las Vegas Raiders are. And obviously, whatever it was that Christian Wilkins did or did not do was serious enough for them to let him go. And as you put, $100 million deal, $50 million eaten in cap.
Kyle, you bring up the point about Pete Carroll, and that cannot be understated, right? This is Pete Carroll, USC heyday, all the stuff that was going on there. Legion of Boom, Seattle Seahawks, fun-loving guy, really didn't discipline much. So for Christian Wilkins to get booted 1 year in, we have to expect this to really kind of knock us off our feet a little bit whenever whatever details do exist do come out. I'm just shocked that for a Pete Carroll team to boot you, it's bad. And 2 things here from Christian Wilkins' standpoint. One, you never want to be labeled as the guy who doesn't work to get back on the field. And if that's the PR campaign, the label that's going to be around him, it's going to be really difficult for him to get into another locker room. And lastly, with Christian Wilkins, the NFLPA is going to fight on his behalf, as unions do. Look at the state of disarray that the NFLPA is in. So I wonder how that will affect the quality of fight on his behalf. This is a mess, and hopefully it gets cleaned up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it really is. And from Wilkins' perspective, I mean, if he does really have an injury that's not going to let him back this year, he turns 30 in December. We'll be coming with this. Like, there may not be a big contract looming for him after this. He may have to take a 1-year prove-it deal, and it might spell sort of the end of his effectiveness if his foot really is, unfortunately, that injured.
Dude,
right.
And this really sucks, Mike, because we were so excited about this Raiders front. And we were...
I know.
Rightfully so, pumped to watch all these studs up front for the Raiders, and we're just not going to see it. Last year we didn't get it. We're not going to get it again this year.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, we have some positional changes to get to and some other news from training camp. All right, the biggest positional change that we saw last week in training camp. Jalen Ramsey, obviously there were whispers. Where would he play in this Pittsburgh Steelers defense after being traded for the Miami Dolphins? Well, they have him kind of in a hybrid role. They've been playing him some at safety, some in the slot. Obviously, that's a role that he knows intimately well. He did it early on in his career at Florida State before switching to outside corner. He did some of that playing in the slot for the Rams when they won the Super Bowl. So, Brock, I wanted your take on this. How difficult is a transition like that? And we've seen it in the past, but what do we think of Jalen Ramsey's skill set making that move?
It was a predicted move once we realized how physical of a player he was, right? By year 3 or year 4, it was like, man, Jalen Ramsey, he's physical at the press, but he can bang a little bit. And then you naturally come to the Charles Woodson conclusion of, okay, maybe if the feet work, lose a half of a step, he can go play safety. And then, of course, during that Rams Super Bowl run, it's okay. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey is going to play safety. Now, the biggest difficulty is not in pass coverage. In fact, that's the biggest benefit, right? Any defensive coordinator's dream is a safety who they can have man-to-man, no help anywhere else, because it allows you to do so many other things in the secondary. So that's the excitement there, and they're going to have so much fun doing it. The biggest difficulty is 22 personnel. 21 personnel, and that's what's going to happen. The same way if you have a Justin Jefferson on a rookie corner, you're going to tap your head here and you're going to throw to him every single play. Well, for those first couple of weeks, every time it is a run play, they are going to run right at Jalen Ramsey. Hey, Jalen, are you used to a fullback coming at you? Are you used to a pulling guard, a tackle? Are you used to a guy down blocking on you? That's what he's going to have to take on. Now, he has the attitude for it. He has the size for it. But for those first couple of weeks, he will get picked on, so to speak. But I feel that he has more weight in his butt than people think, and he will handle his own. But again, the biggest thing here is, as a defensive coordinator, a whole universe opens up when you have a guy as versatile as Jalen Ramsey. I'm rooting for him.
And just like you said, a whole universe opens up when you've got a safety that can cover one-on-one. The whole universe opens up when you can establish the run game as an offense. And when I think about in that division, and I mean, who's the team that you want to beat? It's the Baltimore Ravens. Mm-hmm. They're going to be pounding that rock, and they're going to try to knock on every single door and every single gap. And once they find a little doorway they can hit, they're going to do it a million times. So for Jalen Ramsey, you've got to set the precedent early that you can handle one-on-one blocking in space. You can meet a running back in the B gap, in the C gap, and take him down.
Yeah, Charles Woodson was probably the last to really make the move successfully and extend his career up by a few more years. But I didn't realize, or I guess I didn't quite remember, he was 36 when he made that move. He was 34 crazy, in the Packers Super Bowl year, 33 when he won a Defensive Player of the Year at cornerback. So Charles Woodson, obviously a one-of-one type of player. But I do think Jalen Ramsey uniquely suited to make this sort of move, and it should extend his career. Just the way the NFL is going with cornerback, and just the monsters you have to guard week in and week out at wide receiver, you really have to be in tip-top shape physically. Not say safeties don't, but it's just a much different skill set in terms of what you have to do, that it's much more of a cerebral position than corner is in today's NFL. So yeah, Jalen Ramsey, I think he'll be a huge value add to that Steelers defense. The other one that I was out at Packers practice and I found very interesting, Bo Melton, brother of Max Melton, wide receiver for the first 3 years of his career. They have him playing at cornerback, and I think he's making the team. What I saw, I couldn't believe. The guy looked very comfortable there. Brock, how hard is this transition? We talked about corner to safety and yeah, you can do that. How hard is wide receiver to corner?
This late in a career is really difficult, right? Meaning, if you came into college as a corner and then you flip to wide receiver, flipping back to corner isn't as big of a leap, or vice versa. Sometimes you hear stories like that where a guy can do a lot of things than he had to pinpoint in the pre-Travis Hunter era of football. Yeah. But to my knowledge, outside of high school, these are his first cornerback reps. It obviously runs in the family. Now, this is where I'm going to sound like a hater, but it is important to know he's playing against his own offense. He knows the offense. So where does he stand? We won't know until he's facing an offense that he doesn't know like the back of his hand, an offense that he hasn't been in 3 years. So for that first preseason game, when he's out there probably with the twos, that's when we can really get a full raw assessment of him, because he knows the checks, he knows the motions, he knows what's going to happen. But I'm rooting for him. The more you can do, the more versatile you can be, and the longer you can extend your career.
Okay, Brock, your older brother was on offense, but you played defense. Yeah. My old man is in Canton, Ohio, with a gold bust, and he played defense. And my brother played defense. I watched a ton of defense. You watched a ton of offense. We know the other side of the ball. I always dreamt of the day that one of my coaches walked into the O-line room and said, "Young man, you're looking a little too skinny to play offensive line. Would you like to come play defense?" This is a dream for an NFL player. And obviously a guy like Bo Melton, he's 26. He's established himself early in his career as a guy, but that's a crowded wide receiver room. There's a lot of talent. And there's a handful of guys on every roster that head coach is like, coordinators, I need you to find a way to have Bo Melton on this football team. Because, we need 53 Bo Meltons is like the phrase, pick a guy and fill that in. And I'm happy for him. I'm going to root for him. I know nothing about cornerback, but I'll tell you, if you're athletic enough to play receiver in the NFL, you should be able to go compete for a spot on a roster, but with no experience. It's crazy. Good luck to Bo Melton.
So he received some first team reps over the weekend.
Okay.
Like I said, it was not a joke that I saw from him live. I was like, some plays, I was like, he looked like a cornerback. He ran a 4.34 coming out of Rutgers. He has the traits to do it. The last guy and the Packers the Packers had Sam Shields, who was a college wide receiver coming out of Miami, had never played corner. They switched him to corner his first year as a rookie. He was starting that guy in the Super Bowl, playing a lot of reps. So Sam Shields did it before. Bo Melton, could he be the next one? Like I said, I'm not sure if it's going to make a big impact, but that guy's making the team.
And Mike, it's important to note, Jair Alexander walked out that door, and that cornerback room is very thin. And if Bo Melton can fill that role, he would be wiping a lot of sweat off of Jeff Hafley's forehead.
All right, last training camp story. This one's a little lighthearted.
This one's heavy. This one's heavy.
Yeah. Desmond Watson, the Florida defensive tackle, signed as a UDFA with the Tampa Bay Bucks. They are not allowing him to practice. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see why. Not allowing him to practice until he loses more weight. He was 464 pounds at his pro day. Anyone that scouted this guy could be like, had kind of the exact same opinion. This guy, to do what he did at that weight, was actually insane. He's the largest defensive tackle I've ever seen. I mean, 464, I think it was him losing weight to get to that. But they won't let him practice. I've always thought, in a sport where like you're literally paid to be fat, that it blows my mind that some guys get too fat. Like you're paid to hold 350 pounds.
Mike.
I'm not a fat shaming podcast. I'm just saying.
Mike.
Yes.
Mike.
Let's hear it.
What's the word that I'm looking for? First off, the headline should read Desmond Watson eats Vita Vea. Go back to the picture, Harry.
Also, I feel like this is a
go back to the picture. First off, this man is not fat. This is what a supreme athlete looks like. Whether you accept it or not is on you, buddy. But Desmond Watson eats Vita Vea. Practice will resume when Vea returns to Earth. Look, there's three ways you can get out of the league. You can underperform, you can eat yourself out of the league, and you can drink yourself out of the league. And we all know people who have done any of those things. Not too often do you see the guys that actually eat themselves out of the league. I've played with a few guys that got so heavy they weren't able to participate for more than 2-3 plays at a time. I'm rooting for this guy. He's a mountain of a man. First time I saw him in college, I was like, what is going on out here? Why is this guy so big? On a field full of giant men, this person looks like a mountain. If they can find a way to get him down a little bit and have him bought in, and, really, you got to have all the teammates on board, right? Because we all eat together. This guy doesn't want to eat, just green beans and turkey breasts every day. If he's sitting next to I'm eating bacon and pancakes and waffles every morning. You can't sit with the D-line. You can't sit with the O-line unless they're good teammates. I'd love to see this young man play, though. 464 at pro day. Oh, my.
And it's important to note he didn't show up on the first day of training camp and the team said, hey, we actually need you to lose 20 pounds. You can't practice until you do, right? No, he was probably told from the moment he got brought in. He was told all spring. He was reminded all summer. And apparently he didn't take it seriously. Yeah. So this is a full-time job now. I hope he gets his head on right, because after that first or second preseason game, the team's going to say, you obviously don't want to be here, and they're going to move on from you. So clock's ticking. Let's start shedding those pounds.
Look. I got my last year in the league, I had a mobility injury. Okay. I had like a hip flexor injury. It's what essentially got me out of the league. In 2018, the year before my last year, I broke a bone in my foot. I couldn't run in practice. I couldn't practice, but I was still playing in the game. My weight went from, I'm a 315 to 320 guy. Like when I was an all-pro, I was 318. I was playing at 352. So these things stack up week to week. Next thing you look at the scale, you're 330 and you gulp a little bit, and then you're 340 the next week. I mean, this is just, we got to get him running and get him practicing. I would be of the thought that be like, we have another field for kickers. Let's split the field in half. Let's have half the field be Desmond's, half the field be the kickers, and then we get to practice on the other
when he's out there.
Stop it. Oh, God.
It's a solved problem though. We have Ozempic now.
The weight thing is hard,
Prescribed
man.
to
Hey,
You
Mike,
wanna
Mike,
have-
Mike,
you wanna
keep
have him on
Ozempic out of the
Ozempic.
NFL. Mike, don't even joke with that.
Don't
Don't
need
even
more
flirt with
PEDs.
that. Cut that out.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm rooting for him because the man is absurdly talented.
I want him to play.
Yeah.
And he is. I mean, even just watching him at 464, it's entertaining. When you move the way he can at that size, he could be a player. But well, we'll see. All right, top 10 off-season moves. I ranked these. You guys are going to tell me why I'm wrong, why these don't make any sense in the order that I have them, but this is my ranking, and I'm going to explain why. And the first one, number 10, the biggest offseason, most impactful is how I did. Most impactful, and not just this year, just like most impactful for the life of the move that was made. The first one, DK Metcalf getting traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I did not have, to Kyle's chagrin, I don't have Aaron Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers because I'll be honest, I don't think it moves the need. Like they go 9-8, 10-7, 8-9. They don't. This doesn't impact the sort of NFL world much at all to me. The Steelers are the same Steelers we've seen the past few years. I don't think this moves them to AFC North contenders. I don't think this puts them into Super Bowl contenders. They just kind of are kicking the can down the road with that. Whereas the DK Metcalf, he at least gives you a solid number one for the next 4 seasons. That once Aaron Rodgers leaves, you become a little more attractive, as I choke here, to other quarterbacks around the NFL.
Yeah, you're choking. You left
Mike
Aaron
is
Rodgers
dying.
off the list.
We are losing Mike.
The Desmond Watson's coming to eat Mike. He's
We're back. Oh,
So my hesitation here, as far as being a top 10 impact moment, is the team loses George Pickens, and do they not just land a more refined version of George Pickens? Obviously, the quarterback situation is different, but you just mentioned Aaron Rodgers is not part of this. This is strictly about DK.
Yeah.
The criticism of DK are over his longer career are the same criticisms of George Pickens. There's really only 2 routes here.
really?
There's a lot of distractions that come
I was
off
gonna
the
say.
field on the sideline. So I would love to see DK thrive, but I need to see a more refined version of DK. I need to see better route running, because if we know one thing about Aaron Rodgers, he demands. He doesn't ask. He doesn't ask politely. He demands. And I would hate for that to cause friction in what could be a massive quarterback wide receiver duo.
Also, Jalen Ramsey and DK Metcalf. That's like must-see TV. You get an opportunity to watch a nice little battle there day to day. Look, this makes me happy for DK Metcalf, who, is widely unappreciated. I think, like so many West Coast guys. And Brock, you're from LA. You understand this. They're 3 hours, 4 hours behind us during football season. So a lot of people don't even get the pleasure of watching a guy like DK Metcalf. Everybody understands that there is a physical specimen that has played in Seattle for the last handful of years. Now they get to see him in the black and blue division. They get to see him with Aaron Rodgers. So many more eyeballs are going to be on DK Metcalf. And to your point, for the future of this franchise, whoever they bring in at quarterback after the octogenarian gets out of there, they're going to have an opportunity with DK Metcalf at receiver as a true number one. It's exciting. I'm glad it made the list, but at 10.5, I would have had Aaron Rodgers for this year.
All right. Yeah. I just, there's not a lot outside of this that I think was a massive. So some other ones I left off the list, like Justin Fields signing with the Jets, the Milton Williams signing with the Patriots, Joey Bosa to the Bills, like the Micah Fitzpatrick trade to the Dolphins, Sam Darnold to the Seahawks. Like those aren't moving the needle necessarily to me. This was like the last one where I could see DK at least leading this receiving core for 3 to 4 years. So in that sense, a big move to me. Let's get to number 9. I put the New England Patriots hiring Mike Vrabel at number 9 in this list. And just spoiler alert, this is the third. I have 2 other coaching hires above him, but to me, my third most impactful coaching hire. But the thing was, I think the Patriots, with where they were with the franchise quarterback, they were kind of always going to get their guy. They were always going to get a great head coaching candidate, just with the way that organization, how healthy that organization's been over the past 25 years with the franchise quarterback incoming there, all the cap space they had. It was always going to be a very attractive job. So you're always going to get a very good candidate. Mike Vrabel, obviously, I think slam dunk hire. I do worry about your OC being Josh McDaniels, but we'll see how it all works out in the end. So that's why I have them at number 9.
Guys, the Patriots might make the playoffs.
Actually, I think they will.
I'm pretty sure that they will. Right now, as I look across the AFC, I said, okay, everything goes perfect. Everyone across every team remains healthy all year long. Perfect scenario. I have them as the first team out. So now we look at a situation where that's not how football works, right? People get hurt, people underperform and get benched. Crazy things happen and guys get suspended. Like, through the turmoil of the season, is it that shocking that a team that I have in front of New England right now just isn't there? It's not that shocking of a thing. I'm pretty sure that the Patriots are going to make it. To me, it just comes down to Travion Henderson and how quickly he can get going, because the pass game is going to be fine. The defense is going to be among the best. And like Mike said, most importantly, you have Mike Vrabel, the captain of your ship. Patriots to the playoffs. I love this.
Yeah, immediate shot in the arm to the football team. Obviously, Drake May is going to get better. They've been able to get a little bit older, a little bit more experience at the receiver position, but it's that defense that's going to be showing up like the cavalry. And I think it's going to be one of those tough teams. It's always in a one-score game. And if anybody watches the NFL nowadays, they understand that game management, clock management is at the utmost of importance. And I truly believe that because he played and now he's been coaching for so long, and this has been an important thing for him, being a Belichick disciple, Vrabel understands that and tips the scales in the way of the New England Patriots. And a lot of those one-score games become New England Patriot wins.
The Patriots, I cannot remember a team who had as much turnover year on year as this New England Patriots team. In terms of just like, they legitimately have a chance to have over half of their starting spots from a season ago. So 12 by my count, depending on how the depth charts shake out. 12 new starters, 12 guys who came from either the draft, from other teams. So that is a completely new team. And then it's also kind of a completely new team because you have a quarterback going from year 1 to year 2, which is historically, and just like everyone says, the biggest leap, the biggest year-on-year leap you'll see a quarterback take comes from year 1 to year 2. So you have a completely new team around what could be a completely new quarterback with a completely new head coach. So if you're just basing this off of, what we saw last year from New England, it's like
could be the Commanders. They could be this year's Commanders.
Yes, it is a completely different look there in New England. All right, number 8. And I say this one's big because this is a team on the precipice of a Super Bowl. And they added one of the biggest pieces potentially to their team. It's Jair Alexander getting signed by the Baltimore Ravens. I saw an incredible stat from Football Outsiders the other day that the Baltimore Ravens from 2021 through 2024 have the highest ever DVOA, which is Football Outsiders metric of how good a team has been. Highest ever DVOA for a team that hasn't won a Super Bowl over that span. 4 years, they have been a dominant offense, a dominant defense over the past 2 seasons, and they added to what was from weeks 11 through 18. They were the best secondary in the NFL in terms of results. Their pass defense compared to the second best pass defense in terms of EPA per dropback. The difference between number 1 and number 2 was the same difference as number 2 and number 13. And that week 11, why I say that is because that coincided with when Kyle Hamilton moved from the slot to deep. Humphrey went from outside to slot, and Nate Wiggins, your first rounder from last year, came into the outside. So you're keeping that setup. You're swapping Brandon Stevens for Jair Alexander, and you're swapping Ardarius Washington for Malachi Starks, your first round pick. That is going to be, for my money, the best secondary in the NFL outside of Denver, who I think we all say is the best secondary in the NFL. But they're pretty damn close. And Jair Alexander, he's been banged up, 361 snaps last year, 560 the year prior. If you just get him healthy, even just for the playoff run, they are as equipped as ever to win a Super Bowl this year.
I don't understand how you're supposed to attack this defense.
Yes.
What are you going to run the ball between B gaps? No. What are you going to try and beat Kyle Van Noy to the outside? No. You got Patrick. There's nothing. There's no weak point. As an offensive coordinator, you have to sit down and say, who can we attack? And you have to scratch your head because even the young guys, you could argue, are their best players. And Malachi Stark should be able to follow suit right in line. There is nothing you can do against this defense except hope that there's miscommunication, which, to be fair, the first month of the season last year, Zach Orr, first-time defensive coordinator, there were some communication issues. Assuming all of those are wiped away, assuming Kyle Hamilton is going to get Malachi Starks up to speed, that won't even be a thing this year. I love this move. Yes, it does come down to health, but the benefit is if there is a scenario where Jair Alexander isn't feeling 100%, the defense is going to be fine. In Green Bay, they needed him. If Jair Alexander didn't play, that secondary was toast. This is a situation where take a month off. We're going to be fine. We're going to win games. As long as he's ready to go by playoffs, it has to be Super Bowl or bust for Baltimore.
Yeah, this feels like when a Super Bowl caliber team makes a move that isn't necessarily going to be like, okay, this is our, this makes our team so much better. This is a move where it's like in crunch time, we're going to need it. And it's like adding a pass rusher. And there was a handful of rushers in like the 2010s that would just show up in playoffs in a different uniform every year. And you'd be like, oh my God, like they can still win. Well, this is, Jair Alexander for them. And if they can get more during the regular season out of him, then that's the cherry on top. Look, Mike said it. This has been the best team in football for the most part for a number of years. And the fact that we haven't seen them in the Super Bowl or winning a Super Bowl, it's criminal. It's the reason why a couple of weeks ago I said, Mike, I think the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl. I've ended the show a couple of times. I just wanted to get it out as many times as I can, because they're building a bully. And Alexander walks into a locker room with not just a couple Pro Bowlers. He's in a defense that's like an all-pro defense. And there's guys at every level of this unit that's ready to go bully and punch people in the mouth. And that's the style of football you need to play in today's NFL.
Imagine being Roquan Smith and you have this secondary behind you, and all you need to worry about is everything in front of you.
Just go shoot your gun.
It's going to affect every single facet of the game. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, to me, no one has more pressure right now than Baltimore to win Super Bowl this year. They just, not to say that that's like a thing that anyone even like cares, but this is it. This should be it. This is your best roster that you'll have. This is a team that, Lamar's in his prime. You have everything going for you. You have some free agents coming up after this year that'll start to get a little bit more expensive, but man, there is really no excuse. They just have to at least get to one this year. This is your time if you're the Baltimore Ravens, but AFC's tough. The AFC, to getting through it, is not going to be easy any year, and especially this year. All right, number 7. Another head coaching hire. I think the Jags hiring Liam Cohen.
Duval.
Our GOAT to be their head coach, because, and I why I say this one over even the Patriots hiring Mike Vrabel, is the Jaguars with their franchise dysfunction was not supposed to get the hot OC candidate. They just weren't, right? They're supposed to get the retread who maybe has a chance of like recapturing some old magic. They're supposed to get the guy who kind of is like the third picked over option, but they got the guy who had one of the hottest offenses in football last year, who dealt with numerous injuries at the wide receiver position, who turned a 4th round rookie running back into, a borderline all pro. That they got that guy. And so I think with Trevor Lawrence there, with the prince that was promised, this is the best situation he'll ever have. This is exactly what you wanted from the start of his career. Yes, you never gave it to him with the Urban Meyer saga and all the BS that went down. You finally gave it to him. You finally gave him the weapons. Now, will it work out? I mean, TBD, but I think this at least gives you the best opportunity you'll ever get with Trevor Lawrence to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Sorry. Excuse my language. Hey, I'm sorry. I just said the F word. Can we pull that out here?
Oh, God, did you?
I have strong feelings about this, but you go first, bro.
Okay, here we go. The secondary is obviously a concern. The linebacking unit took a step in the wrong direction, which is a concern. The pass rush is going to be fine. Obviously, there's the Travis Hunter excitement. Can Travis Etienne get back on track? But at the heart of this is Trevor Lawrence, right? The slew of injuries he's had over the past 2 seasons. And can he get back to the trajectory he was on in that second year of his career? What do? You hire a guy who was a huge part of the Baker Mayfield resurgence. Yes, Baker's first year in Tampa, things were going well, but what we saw last year was phenomenal. And I cannot fault any team for hiring a guy who brought the best version of Baker Mayfield that we have ever seen. And can he do that with Trevor Lawrence? Of course, the tools are there. It just has to happen. And I would argue that under coach Doug Peterson, they were their own worst enemy. So if you can just not hurt yourself and keep Trevor Lawrence healthy, you're surrounded with talent and everything else will take care of itself. So I'm with you. It remains to be seen. Liam Cohen, kind of the 1 year wonderkind right now, but you have to roll those dice on a guy who helped Tampa do exactly what you are attempting to do here.
One thing I loved about Liam Cohen was his ability to look at the strengths of the guys in his offensive line room and figure out a way to develop and tailor make a run game for your back, for your offensive line. I know everybody's excited about seeing Trevor Lawrence, and I am too. And he's got to stay healthy to have success, but he's got the weapons there. It's going to come down to this offensive line. And they've added guys in free agency, and they've got a couple of young players that they're invested in the draft. You got to gel quickly because none of that success that they had, I guess some of it with Baker Mayfield, but none of the success that they have happens without an offensive line that found a way to go kick ass. And Graham Barton did a great job. Tristan Wirfs did a great job. That unit in Tampa Bay is really, I would say, like a top 5 unit. I think we ranked it a couple of weeks ago. Are they able to become that in Jacksonville? That will determine the success of Liam Cohen.
Well, I can tell you right now, they're not going to become that this year. They might have the worst interior offensive line in the NFL. That will be an issue and definitely going to be something worth monitoring. But this isn't just like a this year move. You got a guy who's going to put the building blocks in place. And I think for the Jaguars, I've never been, I've never been more excited for the future of the franchise. Truthfully, that's like, this feels like they're finally moving in the right direction. All right, number 6, before we get to the top 5. This one, not really a move. It's just a couple extensions. The Bengals getting both T and Jamar Chase under contract for the next 4 years. Jamar Chase, 4 years, 161. T Higgins, 4 years, 115. And you have Joe Burrow, who's 28 years old, entering what has been historically kind of the window of where you're at your best at the quarterback position, that 28 to early 30s, where you're still physically in tip-top shape, where you've kind of mastered the mental area of the game, where that's where Peyton Manning was when he had that 49 touchdown season, set the record for passing touchdowns, where Aaron Rodgers was when he set the record for passer rating in a season, where Tom Brady was when he was at 30 when he set the record for passing touchdowns himself. So kind of the sweet spot for a career quarterback, you are giving him arguably the best wide receiver duo in the NFL over that entire span. And so if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, you have other issues, but you will always be in the mix if you have that trio of guys happy and healthy.
So we all know what Sunday scaries are, right? You can't fully enjoy your final day of the weekend because you know what's waiting, right? Once you go to bed, you have to wake up and you're right back at it. I have a version of that with Cincinnati. I can't fully get excited about a quarterback on a path to the Hall of Fame in Joe Burrow, a receiver on his path to the Hall of Fame in Jamar Chase, a receiver who's doing incredible things in T Higgins, because I know what that defense is, because I know that this team is going to sleepwalk through the first month of the season. And I would just be so upset if once again we are sitting here at the end of a season, the Bengals barely missed the playoffs because they sleptwalk, right? But what proof do we have that they're going to take the first part of the season seriously? What proof do we have that Al Golden is going to be able to turn around this defense when Shamar Stewart just put a helmet on and Trey Hendrickson isn't there, right? So it's yes, this deserves to be in the top 10. Mike, you're 100% correct in putting this in the list. There's just a little Sunday scary caveat of I can't fully enjoy this because I know what's on the other side of it.
Just because I'm a stickler and I looked ahead on your list, I would say invert 6 and 5. I'm just going to say that, invert 6 and 5, because this is the team in the Cincinnati Bengals that the 31 other teams do not want to see in the playoffs. They don't want to see him. They don't want to play Joe Burrow in the playoffs. Nobody wants to guard Jamar Chase. And let me just remind you, this guy T. Higgins is an absolute superstar.
Yes.
And when he's on the field for the Cincinnati Bengals, they're as dangerous as anybody as I can remember in recent memory. You talk about having the best combination. at receiver. It's incredible. And the other guys that you named at this point in their career age-wise, it's a great list to be named with. So for the Bengals to retain that trio and still have other guys on the offense who are dangerous and can make explosive plays, this is great. It's the next 4 years. You know you're in the hunt. You've always got a shot.
All right. There is 6 through 10. We'll take a quick break. After that, top 5 coming up.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
I think I do agree, Kyle. I think I did overrate this move just a touch. But my number 5 is George Pickens, the former Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver, getting traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Because it's big, because I put it here because it transforms a Cowboys team that I thought was on a hard downslide. And now who knows what happens? George Pickens, there's a reason he was available for as little as he went for. There's a reason why, even after the trade, they didn't all of a sudden just ink him to an extension in the last year of his deal and say, we want you to be our guy next to CeeDee Lamb. But there's no denying this guy's talented. The Cowboys now have 2 of the 9 wide receivers. There's only been 9 wide receivers over the past 2 seasons to go for 2+ yards per route run in each of those seasons. One CeeDee Lamb, one's George Pickens. So you have 2 number 1 type of wide receivers in this room when it really was CeeDee Lamb and just some Jags in that receiving room. Completely transforms what it could be. But I do agree that there is a world where I don't know if this completely crashes and burns, but we're sitting here a year from now, and, a Deontay Johnson situation arises, or like he's just not on the Dallas Cowboys anymore and is somewhere playing for like a 1-year, $5 million deal just because things went so far south. But there's also a world where he goes for like 1,300 yards next to CeeDee Lamb, who goes for like 1,600 yards, and this Cowboys team is back in the playoffs.
He's saying the right things, right? He said, I'm here. I want to prove myself before I get a boatload of money. He's saying the right things. Practice clips look great. We get it. But we all know if losing happens, sometimes the Steelers were winning. Pickens just didn't like what happened, and he blew up on the sideline, right? Hopefully there's people in that organization that he respects enough that can settle him, because I'm sure if Micah Parsons got in my face, I'm going to settle down, right? So hopefully he's surrounded by a group of guys that can keep all that stuff at bay. As far as offensively, this does excite me quite a bit. Yes, George Pickens and Russell Wilson, it seemed like the only thing they could do was chuck fades up the sideline, but that's what this offense specifically needs. Dallas needs a run game. That helps a run game, right? That keeps you in a too high situation when I know George Pickens is going to pick a sideline and he's going to run as fast as he can, and he's probably going to come down with that football. We need to stay too high. I knew CeeDee Lamb, knowing that George Pickens is going to take the top off in that 15 to 20-yard area. CeeDee Lamb's going to cut across the middle, and that's going to be scary. So the biggest benefit for this offense, for Dak to have a healthy season, to get back on track, for this run game to get going, for this offensive line to maybe get back to where they used to be a couple years ago, is to add a guy that does what George Pickens does. I'm excited about this move.
Yeah, look, I mean, how many routes in a row is George Pickens going to run? Nine routes a go route. So how many 9 routes in a row are we going to see where he doesn't get the ball before he explodes? That could be big. Look, I mean, the upside with George Pickens, with this offense, you have your own little mini big 3 with Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens. And you mentioned the offensive line. Look, they're a really young group, but they're all drafted. Tyler Smith is, a stud, so they've got an opportunity to build around some good players. The Cowboys went from a team that we were counting out to a team that could get hot. They're on the could get hot meter on one of those ratings boards.
I'll say this. The one thing I worry about, but like in terms of long-term impact, I think George Pickens in a contract year, I think you'll get his best. But you have now George Pickens, Micah Parsons, and Deron Bland all hitting free agency after this season. It's just like that is 3, what should be, depending on how Deron Bland comes back healthy this year, blockbuster type of deals, $25+ million a year type of deals to 3 different guys. I just don't see them being able to fit that all in. So who is the odd man out after this? Just something to monitor there in Dallas. All right, number 4. and we can breeze through this one.
Yep.
We spent enough time at the Bears hiring Ben Johnson. To me, was the most impactful head coaching hire. To me, feels like a version of, when Kyle Shanahan was leaving Atlanta and was the hot coaching candidate. Now, obviously, he has probably a little bit more in terms of head coaching
chops.
Yes, given who his dad was, given how much he was around the NFL prior to that. But Ben Johnson, in terms of just offensive minds, that's the caliber you're getting in my eyes. Just from what I've seen from him, he is right up there with anyone else you want to put in the NFL, just in terms of week-to-week game planning, always coming with it. And so for a team that desperately, I think a lot of people wanted this last year when maybe they could have had a Jim Harbaugh or their pick a head coaching candidates, knowing they had the number 1 overall pick. I think they got it right this year.
So Caleb Williams is a phenomenal playmaker. He needs to prove he can be a phenomenal quarterback, right? So seeing him on time, seeing him have success within the offense with structured plays, not just when the play breaks down, that's what we want to see. That's what makes this offense better, right? You have to learn the rules before you can break them. So in regards to Ben Johnson having fun with his play calling, the trick plays, the funky formations, all that stuff, that's because they could run the ball and because Jared Goff, for the most part, was a good decision maker. So for everyone who can't wait to see all the crazy Ben Johnson stuff, they have to earn that. They have to prove that they can play within his scheme before they can get funky with it. That being said, of course, this team is looking for a 4,000-yard passer. This team is looking for a playoff win. That will come. It may not come this year, but it will come under the tutelage of Ben Johnson. I just hope that the Bears fans are patient. Super Bowl or bust is not the mindset to have. It's fun to be excited, but give Caleb Williams time. He kind of has to relearn the quarterback position, and I feel he has the tools to do just that, and the coach for sure.
You said it all, Brock. And Harry, you read my mind. I was about to say, Harry, put up that picture of Ben Johnson again, Coach Johnson. There it is. And you know what Ben Johnson's saying right there? He's saying, "I got him." And
Yes, sir.
And everybody's like, "Who's him?" And he's like, "Caleb. He's going to be all right."
Don't you have that picture framed in your bedroom, Kyle?
I do. It's actually it's not framed and it's on my ceiling above my bed.
Okay. All right. Well, there's that.
I just when I close my eyes at night, I am protected by Ben Johnson and his offensive genius.
Well, Caleb Williams should be protected better this year by that offensive line. And I do agree that Ben Johnson, I'm not looking forward to seeing what he does with Caleb Williams, because if there's anyone that can tap into the immense potential, I would trust that it's Ben Johnson. All right, number 3, Geno Smith getting traded to the Las Vegas Raiders and then subsequently extended. Am I just way higher on Geno Smith than everyone else? I couldn't believe
I'm right there with you.
Nope, I'm
I
here.
couldn't believe he was. I think so. Just to go through some stats, because everyone last year gave CJ Stroud this pass, right, for a bad second season or a regressed second season, said the offensive line. Geno Smith was under almost identical pressure numbers, despite having a much lower average time to throw in Seattle, and completed over 70% of his passes. I believe one of like 6 quarterbacks in NFL history to ever complete over 70% of his passes. His accuracy is as good as it gets in the NFL. And now he's paired with 1, a much better offensive line, 2, a much better offensive coordinator in Chip Kelly, and 3, should be a much better running game with Ashton Genty there. So it's like, this is actually a situation where, maybe he doesn't have a DK Metcalf, but he has a Brock Bowers. He has a very reliable receiving core there, if nothing. We talked about earlier this year, Kyle, that in terms of drop rates, in terms of hands, this is the best receiving core in the NFL. So you're pairing the most accurate quarterback in the NFL with the best most sure-handed receiving core. There we go. In the NFL, I think it's going to be exceptional. I think if you're a Raiders fan, this is the most excited you've been since basically Derek Carr broke his ankle. That one at the end of, what was it, 2017 season. So it's number 3 for me.
Because of the division that they're in, Geno's not going to win as many games as he did last year, but he's going to be a better version of himself. If you ask anyone, has Geno Smith had a great career? They would say yes. A good career, they would say yes. But you would look back and say, okay, well, last year was his best year that he has ever had. And you mentioned it, Mike. What he did not have last year outside of the offensive line was a run game. As fun as the Charbonnet and K-Dub Trey duo could be. None of them were either healthy. The number of games that they were both available, I don't even know. I could probably count on one hand. You have Ashton Genty and Raheem Mostert. Mostert's probably going to be a little banged up, but he's not going to be the feature back. And Ashton Genty, we know, give him the ball 50 times a game and it's fine. The game can slow down. The game will have much more play action being involved. Geno will be even better than this year. That does not make them a playoff team, but it means the best version of Geno, and it means he's going to earn every single cent of that extension that he signed.
I love Geno Smith. I love Geno Smith as a leader. I love his story as a guy who wasn't handed the silver platter immediately upon entry into the NFL. I mean, he took a right hook to the face rookie year, at his jaw. He's had to really I'm serious, guys. It's hard to it's hard to reintroduce yourself in this league. And for a guy that, I'm sure he would admit himself, he had a rocky start and he's had the opportunities, made the most of it. And to Brock's point, he's gotten better. And last year was his best year. And now he gets Pete Carroll. And now he gets Ashton Genty. And Chip Kelly is ecstatic to have a guy that can be point guard in this offense. I mean, a lot of the quarterbacks that have had success in Chip's offenses are guys who can distribute the football accurately and on time. Geno Smith can do that. They've got the offensive line. They've got the left tackle. They've got a center who is, getting older by the day, and he's getting better by the day as well. And he's a house. I like JPJ, an Oregon guy. Speaking of Chip Kelly, look, the Raiders are dangerous. To Brock's point, though, they may not win the division, but they're a team that not many people are going to want to play defensively or offensively.
Yeah, I say, I don't know if the Raiders make the playoffs this year. I would doubt if they do, especially given the Christian Wilkins news. But you will be a much improved franchise. And if you make correct decisions, which I thought they did this offseason, you will start being more in the mix in the AFC West. All right, my number 2. Laramie Tunsil getting traded to the Washington Commanders, a franchise left tackle. Who's only 30 years old, going to a team that, that was probably one of their biggest weaknesses. Now, I thought they did a great job of scheming around this offensive line. I thought Brandon Coleman, your left tackle starter there down the stretch, was great for a rookie. That doesn't mean he was a great left tackle in the NFL. It doesn't mean he was going to develop into one. You have one that for basically, this window, this holy grail that you're in the NFL, the rookie contract window where you're paying Jaden Daniels nothing to get elite play out of him. You are now pairing him with a left tackle who is going to be an elite pass protector that entire time. The sort of the at ease that he'll feel with Laramie Tunsil on the left side, who had the 4th highest PFF pass blocking grade, only about 23 pressures on 745 pass blocking snaps a year ago. You will be, you can't put a price tag on it. And I thought it was such a shrewd move that if you want to win a Super Bowl, this is a move that you make.
And I love that they're all in. I love that there is no hesitation from the Deebo Samuel move to the Laramie Tunsil move. They are saying if there is a player out there that can make our team better, we are going to bring them in. We have a young quarterback who, while mobile, while Gumby, who Jaden Daniels can take the hardest hit in the world. He's the first guy up. That doesn't mean we can't protect him even better. The confidence that a mobile quarterback has now, where he can say, okay, I can slow down my mental clock. Jaden Daniels, if you had to critique him on something last year, was sometimes leaving the pocket a little earlier than he needed to because he has that raw athleticism, because he can outrun anyone on a defensive front. He can relax a little longer. He can give Terry, once they pay him, a second longer to get open. He never panicked last year, but this just gives him even more comfort from running the football. I love watching Jaden Daniels run. I don't want him to run because he's going to get, it just increases the chances of his slender frame getting hurt. You always bring in an all-star left tackle when you can. No notes. Great job, Washington.
Harry, you know what I'm going to ask you to do? Let me tell you what, man.
What is wrong with you guys?
Let me tell you what, dude. I always say if you've got a great offensive lineman, you keep them, okay? And I understand that Houston had to reinvent the wheel at the offensive line, And I know you think I was going to go funny here because I was like, pull the picture up. I'm going to make some jokes. They got rid of a franchise left tackle to reinvent the wheel with a group that can spread the wealth a little bit more. Washington hit a home run, man. you can do so much more in protection. If you've got a guy like Laramie Tunsil, you can put him on an island. You can bring your left guard down. If there's an odd front, you can have help at the center position. You can slide right. There's a reason these guys get paid, these left tackles. They just do it differently than anybody else. Laramie Tunsil, no different. And I can't help but notice, is that a hoop earring in his left ear? Does he have the MJ look going on right now? He just needs the he needs the little mustache like MJ. MJ, new team at the end. He was still great. Okay. Nation's capital. He was a wizard. Maybe this is Laramie Tunsil's MJ move.
How did you tie that together? I think he has like how did you tie that together, man?
I'm just saying, Brock. Look, O-line's hard. That's why there's not many great ones. Laramie Tunsil is one. The Washington Commanders got immediately better, and Jaden Daniels will get even better.
All right, my number one. And this is the first one that's skewing in the not positive light, but I think it was incredibly impactful. It's the Detroit Lions losing both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn in one offseason. Unfortunately, this feels like I mentioned it earlier, feels like the 2016 Falcons, where they were the hot team. They should have won the Super Bowl. The Lions last year, they were it. They stay healthy defensively. That should have been your Super Bowl champion a season ago. They were the best team on paper. They were the best team when they were healthy. They weren't. They don't win one. They lose both their OC, their DC. I just don't think you replace what they brought to the table. Not to say they won't be a good team. I mean, the Falcons were still a good team after that, but it just, you lose that luster. You lose that shine that made you special. And unfortunately, I think the Lions are now just tier 2 in the NFC. They were top of tier 1. They are outside looking in. They're looking up at teams like the Commanders, looking up at teams like the Eagles. I just don't see them having what it takes anymore. Now, I'd be glad to be wrong about this and glad to have Kelvin Shepard, the new DC, John Morton, your new OC, pick up right where they left off, pass the torch, and not miss a beat. But unfortunately, I think it's easier said than done in the NFL more often than not at positions as important as OC and DC. And then you just had other things like Aiden Hutchinson maybe not looking quite back to himself, losing Frank Ragnow along the offensive line, just getting a little bit older there. We'll see, but it's my number one most impactful move.
The great thing is that there were internal hires, right? So yes, maybe some wrinkles might be different, but the verbiage is the
Morton
same.
came from, I think Morton came from Denver, but
I'm sorry. From a defensive standpoint, because you were talking about Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, okay.
And
Morton was there previously though, but he came from Denver.
Yeah, he's familiar with the world, but yes. Specifically for the defense, who had what 1,000 different starters last year.
I think it was more.
This offense is going to do what it does. I don't care who's calling plays. You got Sonic and Knuckles. You got Jared Goff. You got Amon-Ra. You got Jameson Williams. They're going to find a way to be successful. It comes down to the defense. And I'm curious what Kelvin Shepard does schematically. Does he continue to trust and have as much faith in those young defensive backs that Aaron Glenn did? Man coverage as much as possible. How much do you trust them, et cetera, et cetera? If the pass rush isn't there, if you don't trust your linebackers, yes, guys are going to get healthy as the year goes on. They're going to start adding guys as the season goes. But the fact is that mindset will remain the same. Whatever version of Aiden Hutchinson you get, however long it takes Malcolm Rodriguez to come back, you still have Jack Campbell there. You still have angry guys who want to impress Dan Quinn. They play for Dan Quinn. And that's what I feel will be the key to this entire season, knowing that the offense is going to put up points, maybe not as many as last year. If the defense can't stop a nosebleed, it won't matter. My issue is Green Bay is going to win the NFC North. So you're fighting for a second seed within your division. Now, how quickly can JJ McCarthy put it together? What if Chicago comes out of nowhere? So I'm right there with you, Mike. I don't want to be nervous. I don't want the magic that was Detroit to be over. We were having so much fun. Everyone was a Lions fan, and I would hate to see that end. I'm going to say a wild card spot for them because they're going to get stronger as the year goes on. All that being said, it comes down to how quickly the defense can figure it out.
Yeah, how healthy will this group be? And I mean, there's a reason it's number one on the list. This changed the landscape, the power rankings, as it were. Ben Johnson gone in division. That hurts him even more. Aaron Glenn gone. But can they get healthy on defense? And to Brock's point, they still retain the talent, the toughness, the success. They have the feeling of success in Detroit still. It's not like that goes away. So can they maintain momentum that they've gained over the last 2 years and roll it into this year with 2 new guys?
All right, there's your top 10 biggest, most impactful off-season moves. At the end of the show, we'll be back on Wednesday talking some breakout players coming up for this upcoming season. Until then, thanks so much for Brock for joining. Thanks so much for Kyle. As always, keep pushing.